Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Forman. Today we are at Christenson Surfboards with Chris Christenson. Chris, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
And we are just out of the water surfing these two Speed Masters. Mine is 9.6, 23 1/4, 3 1/8. And as you can see, it's got glass on thruster. Chris, what are your dimensions?
Mine's a 9.0, 22 5/8 by 2 3/4.
And single fin.
Single fin, yep.
Chris, tell us a little bit about the Speed Master and kind of where it fits into the Christenson quiver.
It's another shape in the glider realm. Obviously, a lot of the influence I had working alongside with Skip Frye for all those years. I've always been turned on into the big board thing. Later on, developed like my Chris craft, which is my favorite length is at 11 foot. I wanted to get a pintail version of that, but more of a speed shape and a little more compressed. So like you see, mine's a 9.0, yours is a 9.6, and they still have that big board feel and speed. A lot of reach, a lot of glide. I run them as a single fin or the tight cluster thruster. Single fin, a little more stable, a little more drawn out and swooping turns. Still has nice high line trim and glide. What I like with a tight cluster thruster is you get a little more bite off your turn, a little tighter radius. Another cool thing is with big boards and glider style boards, a lot of the ride is like just going, milking them all the way to the beach. And one thing that Skip Frye taught me was he ran a lot of these in his personal boards.
Okay.
Because this whole thing was like, I can go until the water's that deep.
You're
not clunking your fin. So a lot of reach. When you have your thruster set up, you always envision it as a triangle. The smaller that triangle, the more pivot you get. So you get a little less drive that way. That's why your performance boards are a little more spread out, because you need that drive. The way this plan shape is, the board itself has plenty of drive.
You got all the drive you need off the rails.
So my thing is like, I'm going to put a thruster in there, that real tight setup, and it just has that real nice pivot feel to it. It has a single fin feel to it.
Right.
With a little more bite. I'm not saying, if one was better than the other, I'd only make that one. It's a feel, you know what I mean? And, I like the way single fins feel as well. So it's just a feel for me.
I think initially when you started leaking info on this board coming out, I think a lot of people were a little bit like kind of questioning, like, where's it going to fit in? Because a 10.0 Chris craft is most 10.0 Chris crafts, unless you really bulk them up, are already kind of small for a glider.
Right.
And so we're like, where's this going to fit in? But then the very first time that I saw yours in person, when we actually shot a review, you weren't here that day, but shot a review and kind of overview on that thing. You could definitely, as soon as you see it in person next to a Chris craft, then you immediately understand it, like more width in the nose, more width through the tail, like all throughout, like, and also like reading these numbers off. These are not Chris craft numbers as far as like the width.
No. And you can run these if you want to run these at 11 foot. You can. It's also a good board for like the guys that are in like my sea buckets and ultra tractors, all that. It's also a good board that's kind of in between that style board and the Chris craft, because they almost have kind of that mid-length feel too. They get a little spicy and caffeinated, and they run. I mean, the board's really fast.
Yeah. I mean, that wave that we were surfing today, when we looked around, there was a lot of junk, but then we found that one left-hand corner, and that actually had some good sections running in it. And when you got on the right one, then it went for sure.
Yeah, you finished with a good one today.
Yeah, it's nice to get your best wave as the last one.
Yeah, you found the gas pedal on that one.
I think another thing, I mean, you're talking about like, people with ultra trackers and some of your other boards, and then getting this above it. I mean, we find a lot of people, while 11 foot out here seems to be, and probably not for everyone, but for the people that are in the know, 11's like, oh yeah, I'm getting an 11. There seems to be like a handbrake at like 10 foot, like where people don't want to go longer. And I think this will like kind of fit that. You get a 9.6 or a 10.0 in this board. It's going to be, within the realm of what they think they're going to like, and then have it obviously surf well also.
A lot of people, it's the 11 foot and the big board crowd, and people call them the gliders and whatnot. There's, it's a niche crowd. Having this length, especially on the East Coast where you guys have a lot of beach break and all that, it makes this a lot more accessible for a lot more people. I also made it, a little more price point friendly. So I'm offering, the Chris Crafts is an expensive board. You got to get a tent and all that stuff. So I also designed this board where, it'll still work really good with just a basic clear sand finish, and they come in retail under $1,500, which is a good entry level price for, having that like trim and glider style type board.
Let's talk about this versus a longboard, like a full nose longboard, and the difference. Because a lot, I would actually say not a lot of times, most times you paddle out on something like this in a break that doesn't know what it is, and they're like, is that a gun? Is that a, like, what is that? And I mean, I found myself like riding gliders way more than normal longboards,
right?
Just because of the speed, like how fast the boards go, and you're cutting all of the aero and the hydro resistance like off the front of the board.
The sensation of the effortless speed. I mean, if you once you plant yourself, I mean, always for me the gas pedal is always right about here on these boards. But I mean, there's speed shapes, I mean, unless you're really talented, they're not nose riders. I mean, very talented guys can get a nice cheater 5 on these and pocket and right like that. But this is more as keeping it smooth and casual and just running. They paddle good. You can go a little extra length, and I get them the cross country realm. Like a lot of times when I ride my Chris craft for my big boards, I surf a lot in Cardiff, and sometimes I'll just challenge myself. There's about 8 different reef spots in Cardiff, and sometimes I'll just like, you know what, I'll get a wave at each spot and just keep paddling. I call it cross country surfing.
Right.
And and just work my way out because they paddle so effortlessly and fast.
And then you're not making a bad name for yourself either in each one of those lineups.
Yeah, because your wave count does go up on these. I mean, they paddle so effortlessly.
The other thing that we've been talking up at the shop is a lot of people that are getting bigger boards. They're not necessarily getting them to nose ride them. They're getting them like for the paddle power of the board and the wave catching and the wave count. And that big nose is a lot of times holding them back. I mean, it's holding them back like on the drag of it, on drops, like the nose catching the wave and the swing weight of having that big nose. Where if you're not nose riding, if you're just riding in the middle of the board, something like this is going to be
great.
It's way more performance and way faster.
Yeah, and it really fine tunes your surfing too, because with a flatter, little lower rocker and all that, it just, for me, you feel the board a lot more than having that big clunky nose and fighting it all the time. And nose riding is a stalling maneuver. And I've always liked going fast.
Right, yeah, not putting the brakes on.
Yeah.
Sizes that these are going to, like, kind of what's the size run on these boards?
The main size run that I'm marketing is 9.0 to 10.0.
Okay.
I got a 10.0 in the works for myself, actually. I'm going to run it with that set of fins. Yeah, anywhere, pick your poison in that zone. And it doesn't matter, when you get in this kind of board, it doesn't matter, like, how tall you are. You're a little bigger guy than me, but you could ride a 9.0 and I could ride a 10.0. Or, it's more or less just pick your size and for where you want to surf them and all that. So
it's kind of like the longfish, pick your feel.
Yeah, just
rather
pick your
than
feel.
Your volume.
Yeah, there's no algebra to your body mass on what length you should have on these.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I found, starting with the first sea bucket that you made me, and then through the Chris crafts and this board today, is that they're definitely smaller than their length as far as like how they feel.
Yeah,
like it's not like. If you think about like a 10-foot nose rider, that's like a big, bulky, wide.
These rides small, they're spunky. Like that last wave I saw you get going, you got it. You got a couple of little sections you're able to do quick direction changes on too. They ride smaller than their length, they feel.
Yeah, just a lot livelier, sportier, I guess would be a good.
Yeah, a little more caffeinated.
Yeah, more caffeinated, more spark than like a big boaty, like 10-foot log.
Exactly.
I think when a lot of people start thinking those longer lengths, they immediately go back to some like giant clunky board that they rode, and they think that something like this is going to ride like that, where it's completely two different animals.
And the other problem with a lot of gliders, there are a lot of glider style shapes, and I hate using the term glider, as I had a glider model in the 90s when I was really influenced by Skip, and Skip always called them big boards, and his model was the Eagle, but he called the genre big board. So I've always kind of liked that term, and it's kind of, there's an article in Surfer's Journal out right now about that whole story, and then the big board thing kind of started catching on, especially around the reefs here in San Diego, and then everyone started calling them glider, and I'm like, well, my model's called a glider, and that's why I go, well, I'm going to toss that name. Mine's going to be the Chris craft now.
Right.
And then I call it, I accept the glider term on them. Being in that genre, in the glider genre, the big board genre, I also, a lot of them were designed for the reef breaks here. I wanted to get that sensation and feel in beach breaks as well, because I also surf a lot on the East Coast and out your guys' way. And this is a very beach break friendly glider type surfboard.
And what is
and reef, of course, too.
From a designer and shaper standpoint, like from you, like being as respected as you are, like in this category of boards, like what is it that defines a glider? Because right now, like that's being so overused right now. Like
It's so overused. And
there's like mini gliders, and
yeah,
this fun board is a glider, and everybody wants to call their board a glider. But what is it to you
yeah, it's a
that
bit
makes the board a glider?
subjective, objective, a bit agnostic. I guess your basics would be, to Tom, Dick, and Harry, the speed shape, the more pointy nose, broadened tails, real parallel rails. That's like the gas pedal, 'cause
Okay.
you don't have a lot of curve in the rail when you're in trim, slowing the board down.
Mm-hmm.
Lower rocker.
Okay.
Edge in the tail, not 50-50 rails. And then the rails, I picture, like I call them fighter jet rails. I was really influenced by Skip Frye, and Mike Diffenderfer always had a real low apex rail. Having that rail, the apex of the rail, meaning the point or the top of the rail and the bottom of the rail come, the apex of the rails below halfway. So it's a low rail. I call them like 75-25. A lot of people say 60-40, whatever. So, or even 80-20, like down.
Okay.
They're not 50-50 rails. And there's a lot of foil. Like this is the most important part of these boards right here. They're really foiled, and then they come into a pretty knifey edge in the back.
Okay.
And the whole idea is just to keep them fast and not have any gag.
Right. Keep them going and moving down the line.
Because if you get these in trim, they'll actually, as you saw in your last wave, and you don't have to do anything, they'll actually accelerate by the way
they just keep. Yeah, you're not having to pump it at all. It's just going.
And I call these rails, like again, I was like influenced by Skip Frye and Diffenderfer. I call them fighter jet rails. If you look at the wing of a fighter jet,
yeah,
and even a commercial jet, that's that shape. And I put that same style of shape on my fish and a lot of my twin fins too.
Okay.
But it keeps the board on top of the water. But then having that low apex makes it real reactive as soon as you use the rail.
Right. Awesome. Well, I enjoyed the first surf on it. I'm already a big fan. I'm looking forward to keeping this thing in my California quiver. It's going to be a lot of fun surfs on this thing up and down the coast.
See you get some on the Outer Banks too.
Yeah, exactly. No, it'll actually be great. Actually, like right around the shop, there'll be a lot of different ways where this board will be a winner. Chris, thank you so much for running us through the new Speed Master.
Thank you.
Viewers out there, if you have any questions on the Christenson Speed Master or would like to place an order for one, either stock or custom, you can always reach us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surf. And thanks for tuning in.